Hello, welcome back. I'm currently filming from a secret location. I'm not certain where this secret location is, or what the background is to my recording. And some of you might recognise it. I think it's the Banff mountain range in Canada, because it certainly looks like that. If you look at the geography, it's kind of like this, kind of like a green lake there, which is kind of like a crystal green lake. Anyway, I wanted to show you a game that I played on Lichess, and there's a puzzle at the end of it. I wanted to quickly show you the game, and we'll get to the puzzle. So this is a game I played against apparently an IM. And I believe he's 25-60. It's someone like Cuba or Puerto Rico, or somewhere like that. And I beat him 3-0, and this is the third game. So I was quite happy about that, because 25-60 FIDE, bear in mind. So 25-60 on Lichess is not that. It's still obviously a very good rating, but bear in mind that Lichess ratings are inflated. So in this game, I'm 27-68. I'm not 27-68 FIDE rating, or even close to it. Let's be totally honest. But anyway, let's get through the game. And I was white. So how did the game go? We went into a French defence. And my opponent decided to exchange on e4. I'm not too... When bishop c4 here, I believe that bishop g5 is also a move in this position, and white can also play the move knight e5. This is like a famous old game, Kasparov versus Morozevich, which I believe was played in Linares. At the time, Morozevich was... Not Morozevich, sorry, Ponomarev. Ponomarev was an up-and-coming player. Actually, possibly, well, I say up-and-coming. He recently won the World Championship when they had a knockout World Championship, beating Ivanchuk in the final. So he was considered to be a possible challenger to Kasparov, but Kasparov dismissed him almost with contempt. Just to prove that he's one of the greatest players in history. Ponomarev was an interesting case actually, because he kind of had a very successful career very early on, and he's still obviously a very good player, but he kind of stalled at some point. He never quite got any further, which is interesting. So it looked like he was going to be like maybe one of the greatest players in history. And I think that's an interesting case point for some of the players we talk about today, because we hype up people like Gukesh and Pragananda so much because they made so much progress at a young age. Keimer, so on. Quite deservedly, Norderbreck. But there are a few kind of, I wouldn't say, warning signs, but, case histories where people have had vast results, had fantastic results very early in their career, vast improvement. Yi Wei is somebody who would come to mind. Caruana was talking about this because he was asked which of the young Indian players would become the absolute top player. And he said that it wasn't that clear, because a lot of players, they can make rapid improvement very early in their career, because this is the way chess is kind of geared now, that you work really hard when you're very, very young, and then at some point you either lose motivation, or you work so hard that you basically stop improving. I have a theory about this actually. I have a theory that players actually peak, or they're very near their true strength when they're about very young age, like 13, 14. And any kind of improvement that comes after that is to do with experience. Be interested to see whether anyone has a similar experience, where maybe they peaked too soon, or they felt that they were like late improvers. Some people are late improvers, of course. But that's my theory. I think I was probably as good as I was when I was like 14 or 15. And any kind of improvement that came after that was generally through experience and so on. Anyway, as usual, I'm babbling a bit. So after this, I played bishop c4. I remember Mark Hebden mentioned this to me once. The idea is that if you go c5, I think white puts queen on e2. So say, for example, that's actually what... Well, I think actually this isn't the way that I was supposed to play. Maybe you can go here now. and then go bishop d2. And the idea is just to castle queenside quickly. And obviously black is generally geared up to castle on the king side and then try and attack on the king side. I'm not sure if this is the idea that he suggested or not, but it does bring, it does kind of come to mind slightly. So I played this, I was playing very quickly, and then I made a bit of a mistake here. I meant to go queen f3, for some reason I went queen e2. We won't look too deeply at the moves. Yeah, e5 is a natural move, but it's a slight weakening of the position for black. You are creating some slight weaknesses in your position. The move I was expecting, which I think is a better move, is b5. And you can either put the bishop on d3 or b3, but whichever one you do, they're going to go bishop e7. Although thinking about it now, maybe is this a move? I don't think this quite works because the idea is we go knight takes, but that fails for a couple of reasons. Firstly, you can simply take, and now after here, you've got a very nice tactic. You go here, boom, no time to take on c5. Alternatively, after bishop takes, you could simply take on d4 as well, which is also possible because after bishop takes or rook takes, then you take on. It might even be possible to play a bit like rook e8 actually, or even queen. Well, not queen c6 probably because of bishop h3, but rook e8 or simply just take. And white will not get enough of either queen f7 or maybe king. Even rook f7 is playable. All moves are good for black. So that doesn't quite work. So therefore you're left in a situation where this bishop is actually a very useful bishop, and potentially combining with the other black pieces could create some kind of counter-attack on the king side. Quite like black's position in that case. But he went e5, which is a more forcing move. I came back to c2. And then he played this, which is also should be fairly reasonable. So I decided to take and go rook e1, and now I actually felt reasonably happy with my position. Because unlike the position, imagine with the black pawn on e6, white has no targets here. But now with the pawn on e5, I've got at least a clear plan, which is what you want in chess. You want something clear to do. My clear plan is that I'm attacking e5. You can go queen c6, prevent that attack, because then when I go knight e3, my attack on the pawn on e5 is blocked. So queen c6 is possible here. What did he play? He went rook e8, also reasonable. Yeah, he went g6 because he's slightly afraid I might go knight f5. Typical move for blitz, I would say, g6. I carried on. Actually, I felt like I was playing quite sharply because this is quite a good move actually, because I'm trying to get to d7 with a rook. When he took, okay, some hackers might consider rook d7 here, but the problem is they go rook e7. So I took here, and I went h4. Yeah, a typical attacking move that we see now in chess, that h4 is a good move. When I was younger, I was used to see these games by Garry Kasparov. He would push his h-pawn. People talk now about computers playing with the h-pawn, which of course is a very normal way that computers play now. And it's popularised this idea of pushing the h-pawn. But when I was younger, before computers were very, very strong, Garry Kasparov used to always attack with his h-pawn. There were famous old games of Bobby Fischer where we would do the same. And Michael Adams is another player. I remember having some great games where I remember him using his h-pawn a lot against good players. When I was a kid, I mean, Adams is not that much older than me actually, but I used to follow his games. Obviously, he was a much stronger player, well, he still is, but he was, an active player on the circuit, whereas I was kind of like an up and coming junior, didn't really play that much. But I'd look at his games. I remember him using this kind of idea of attacking the h-pawn a lot. So very typical idea, trying to soften up the back defences. Try and induce me like h5, and then at some point later on, who knows, this construction might be a little bit weaker. There might be some kind of bishop takes f7. So black could play h5, but then the queen would go to g5 probably, and then you'd be forced to make another weakening move f6 if you wanted to kick the queen away. So instead of king g7, actually, sorry, I forgot there was white to move. So now I went h5, and that was a bad move. Yeah. So what should he have done instead? To be honest, I haven't checked this game with a computer. I saw that I played a very accurate game in terms of I didn't make many mistakes. The computer said I had a 10 centi pawn loss, which is very good for a blitz game. But at the same time, it was all very simple and straightforward. So I wasn't cheating. I was just playing straightforward moves, and often the computer will give you a good score there if you don't make any blunders. I think that's one of the keys for blitz. Is, you know, if you play a lot of blitz chess and you don't make any big mistakes, you're probably going to win a lot of games because people are blundering left, right, and centre, even in simple positions. So my opponent played move f5. Bad move, possibly even a move like bishop c8 might be safer to come around here. I'm not actually sure what black should play here, but apparently that is a bad move. It's not I think it's already quite a tricky position for black, at least practically speaking. Maybe a move like queen c6 was possible. Just to cover this square, because we see that sometimes this square becomes relevant later on. Already I think black is now in trouble. Another move. So this is where I saw the combinational possibilities. In fact, I'd already seen it before I played queen g5. Or, sorry, before I played my next move. I saw that there was suddenly ideas. So this is a position we reached. So this is a position where it looks very promising for white. Got pawn at h6. Very promising attacking position. So white to play a win in this position. You may want to pause what they say on Chessable and other platforms. They say you may want to pause the video at this point and try to work out how white to play can win in this position. Anyway, so yeah, so this is I put this up as a test on Facebook and other social media, and a lot of people played the move I didn't even consider during the game actually. Which at first when I saw the reply, I thought, well, that looks like a very good reply, a very good idea, and that's like an alternative, but actually it wasn't. So the idea was to go queen f6 check. Some of you might have considered that idea. Only just fails by a whisker. So clearly black king is in check. You can't move the king because of bishop on b3. If you go to g7, I'm just going to take you. So the only move effectively is rook takes f6. Now rook check is to follow. Now if rook back to f8, that's it, instant checkmate. But unfortunately for white, there is a defense. You go rook e8. Rook takes, and now rook f8. So clearly we see this doesn't work. Actually, the more I think about it, it's possible that white is still okay, maybe even better, because you've got this, not better actually, not better, but you've got this move, rook takes e5, which I just realised now might be a way to save the game for white. But it's clearly you don't really want to have to find only moves. Now if black takes on e5, they're going to be effectively losing the game, because that endgame will be terrible for black. With a pawn at h6, you're already a pawn down, just a dead lost position. So you have to defend the rook on f8. The queen is being attacked. If you take on e8, then it's the same problem. Rook takes e5. I mean, you do have rook check and rook e2, which would attack two pawns, but then, for example, no, rook takes e8, I take, sorry, yeah, you can't take on e8. You can go queen d6. And at first I was thinking this is, yeah, actually it's still okay for a draw. Because I think white has to go rook e6. Now there's no good way for black to defend the rook. Now maybe this isn't okay for a draw. Maybe this is also losing for black. Interesting that, yeah, I've just discovered this idea now. That alternatively this could also be winning. Because the point is after here, you go here. And this is starting to look a little bit grim for black. So it's possible that this is an alternative solution, but clearly once you see this line with rook takes rook e8 and then rook back to f8, you kind of stop there, right? We don't need to look any further. It doesn't look very convincing for white. There's a much simpler way, which is the way I play in the game. Congratulations if you found the move rook to d8. That was the move I played. And that ended the game at once. Now the main point is I'm attacking this rook on f8, so you can't just play a pass move. So clearly I'm playing a very forceful move. If he takes, the main line is if he takes the rook on f8, I go queen f6 check. We've already established that black king can't move because bishop on b3, so it has to go here. A typical mating pattern, queen takes g7. So I think, yeah, this is one of the reasons, you know, possibly why I'm a GM, is that I've got a very good kind of memory for mating patterns. And a lot of it is just simple stuff, you know. People assume GM is kind of like some magic ingredient, but a lot of it is just memorization and pattern recognition. And I've seen these kind of mating patterns before. I wrote a book called Mating the Castle King. We talked about stuff like this. Had a lot of mating patterns in that. Rook d8 is basically the end of the game. You can't really, you can't play a move like rook e8 because I just exchange. And queen f6. And if he goes here, I just take on f7. And effectively he's lost a rook and he's still threatened with all kinds of mating ideas. So I'm probably going to give checkmate within the next few moves. So that was the end of the game. He decided to resign. I beat that guy 3-0. I was very happy about that result. But yeah, congratulations if you found the move rook d8. I'm now going to get back to my holiday in the Banff National Park in Canada. I'm not sure where that is actually. Whereabouts in Canada that is. I think that's on the... Well, it's in the Rockies, right? It's Canadian Rockies. So I believe that might be somewhere on the western side of Canada. Not near say like Niagara Falls, which is like on the very southern, like New York State goes into the Canadian border. I believe it's on the other side, but I could be wrong because the Rockies go along the western side of the United States, more or less, Colorado. And then it carries on into Canada. But again, my knowledge of geography is very, very poor. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that puzzle. That was White's play and win. Rook d8. Very nice puzzle. I'll be doing a bit more chess by the end of the week.